Welcome back again, guys, from Tampa Bay. Today I'm reviewing the 2016 Yamaha or Star Bolt. This is their pretty much entry-level cruiser, 950 cc's, small size as far as the frame goes. Had this out a few years now. This is a standard model. They do have a couple other different ones. One more of a cafe racer type. This is a standard upright naked cruiser. First impressions, heavy, clunky front end. Feels like everything is beefy. Where's the key? Where's the key? Down there. Good thump to it. I'm 6'2", and he's moving my bike.
Come by, go ahead and follow him, okay?
All right. Dude, you drop my bike, I will kill you. No joke. Whoa, what? That's not my bike. Ha, that's funny. It looks just, nope, it doesn't look just like my bike. All right, here we go. Figure out where the clutch engagement is here. All right, like I say, I am 6'2", 32-inch inseam, 250 pounds. First gear is very smooth. This whole thing feels like I'm riding on a big piece of rubber. There is vibration, I can tell. However, I'm not really feeling it so much as seeing it and hearing it. Mirrors have a lot of vibration to them. They are going to be just about worthless as far as image quality. Pretty normal position. I've got about half the usable mirror. The other half is just my arm. But man, everything is shaking around in there. You're not going to really be able to tell. Mirror vibration doesn't translate that well on these GoPros, but trust me, from my point of view, just about worthless. I can tell there's something behind me, and that is about it. Nice smooth transmission. Let's go down into first. Bit of a clunk. The actual shift lever, I don't know if it's adjustable or not, but it's pretty high. Doesn't look like, well, yeah, it is. There is a turnbuckle there. So it's probably just adjusted too high. On Yamahas, they often, and a lot of other bikes, they have this turnbuckle so you can position the center section and the travel limits of the shift lever. So somebody just has it a little out of spec. The actual shifting is very smooth. You can feel it. Oh man, okay, it does not like being lugged in top gear at 25. Whole thing was just shaking apart there. So we'll go down, let's see, there's no gear indicator. See how it kind of, I think it's a 5-speed. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 speeds. Let's go down to the second. It's smooth. I'm not feeling a ton of torque out of this motor. We'll get out on the road here and see. Gauge is minimal, but very easy to read. Obviously, chrome surround. I have a dummy indicator light. Just tells you that you've got them on. Doesn't tell you left or right. Big speedometer right in the middle and an odometer down below. I'm looking for a button to see if there is maybe a, there we go. Hit the select over here. There's only 5 buttons on the whole bike, so not too hard to figure out. Cycle through some stuff here. I've got a trip odometer, and unfortunately I cannot read the gauges now. It has a clear reflective gloss plastic over the gauge pod, and it's completely washed out right now in the sun. All I see is glare. So too bad for that. That is not typical of Yamaha. I'm surprised they did that. Seating position is very low. I feel low in the seat, and it is advertised as one of the lowest seating position bikes out there. So if you are on the shorter stature, this is something that's going to be comfortable for you. It does have a low center of gravity. Front end, once you get moving, feels fine, but it doesn't feel nimble. It just feels like it wants to go straight. I do have some vibration in the bars, a little bit more in the foot pegs, and a little bit in the seat. So it's not like some other European V-twins that are butter smooth, but it's nothing like a Harley where it's just shaking your bones apart. It's kind of in between. I think for most companies, when they do a V-twin, they want some of this sensation because, frankly, let's face it, most cruiser type people not only expect some vibration, but they want it. For a lot of them, it's part of the experience itself. So It's not unexpected. I'm not calling it any kind of negative thing. Just reporting the facts. Very smooth brakes. Little spongy though, but responsive. Neutral's easy to find. Little short though. The foot pegs themselves are a little forward. They're not quite forward controls, but they're definitely not neutral. They're kind of in between. Not too many bikes have this particular control position. But the seat's so low that the pegs are directly underneath my knees. So when you're riding, it's actually really comfortable. A lot more comfortable to me than more forward controls. I would not want them farther back on this bike because then my knees would be too scrunched up. Let's do a first gear pull. 42 miles an hour is the cutoff, and not much power out of this guy. That was wide open throttle. It really didn't even upset the suspension. It just, it went. That's it. Honestly, I expected a lot more out of a 950cc motor. I expected it closer to, say, the Indian Scout, and it is absolutely nothing like that. This is just a lazy, relaxed, you know what? This is actually directly on par, if not a little slower, than my 800cc Suzuki Bobber I built. You know, the old C50 platform. This is probably just a hair slower than that. So to give you some perspective, if you're coming from or looking for an entry-level cruiser, if you've ridden the C50, which many people, or the M50, same motor, that's what you're getting out of this. However, this is a much smaller frame, much smaller package, and I think it might actually be a little bit closer to the ground. Let's see, what can I hear about this? Not a whole lot. Really quiet exhaust, as pretty much every stock Yamaha is. Can I hear the intake? Yes, the intake is quite loud when you gear it down. It just sounds like a howl, like a hollow howl sound. There's no concussion, there's no deepness. It's smooth, there's no jerkiness. Let's go back up into fifth, roll on. It's got that V-twin thump. 35 miles an hour here, just rolling on in top gear. It's in absolutely no hurry. It gets louder, but it doesn't move. That's wide open. So let's go down 35 here. The Speedo itself, looking at it, very, very slow refresh rate. I think it's refreshing once a second. Maybe half a second. It's not, you don't get the impression that it's a real-time Speedo. That's actually the first time, I think I might have seen a Polaris, a Victory. I keep calling them Polaris because, well, that's what they are, but the Victory brand bikes, I think they have pretty much the poorest displays in the industry. I think they did the same thing. This is not typical, certainly not for Yamaha. I think wherever they sourced this whole pod from, man, they need to find another one. Not high quality whatsoever, doesn't even go with the rest of the bike. This is not a high-end cruiser, all right? Don't mistake this for even a Harley. Let's face it, Harley may be pretty expensive for what it is, but nobody can fault their fit and finish and their design aspects and everything about that. I mean, look at this. You got these little ugly zip ties just stuck down here. You can see them here. They're twisted in different positions. $8,000. You shouldn't expect little details like this. They could do something better. You know, at least put them around the other side, make them shorter, cut them off. I don't know, something. That's what I'm talking about, though. This gauge, again, I don't have a polarized lens on or anything, and I can't see it right now. There's hardly any contrast with this glossy, shiny display. Turning is actually not bad. It's definitely a cruiser. It's got that wallowing feeling. The tires feel huge, like you're riding on balloons. I don't have any kind of road feedback or feel. The only thing I feel going down the road on this is the vibration of the engine. But that's what you want in a cruiser, you know? It's very stable. Feels light and nimble once you're moving. It's got really thick grips. Again, a cruiser thing. The bars, the front forks, they feel huge. They feel heavy. Now this does have a little bit of rake to it, so that definitely affects things when you're not moving or going very slow speeds. I can see the rear turn signals on that. I'm not sure if it's FZ07 or FZ09, but I noted when I reviewed the FZ09 that the front ones were bobbing all over the place and those rear ones are doing it too. Oh, that's the R3. So they're putting those cheap ass lights on a lot of bikes these days. Not a fan of those. Now these here, I believe they're LED and they are rigid. Nice chrome surround on the tank itself, chrome gas cap. I like the details of this bike. Whoop, didn't want to open that. I love the details on it. Pretty thin tank. When I'm up riding, I'm not hitting my legs on anything. Kind of touching this box here, and they've got a little cage guard over the rear cylinder head here so you don't torch your leg. But it feels nice and natural. I don't feel the need to tuck my legs in at all in this bike. Standing up, oh, phew, room for days. I probably have 6 or 7 inches of clearance once I stand up. Very cushy suspension. It drops a good 2 inches when I sit on it, both front and rear. So that's why the ride has no feedback. It's like, all right, it's riding on a marshmallow, and there is no adjustment, so it is what it is, at least on the front here. There may be a preload adjustment on the back, but frankly, that's not going to make any difference to the way it feels as far as the sponginess. That's just if you're going to ride with a passenger or not. It's got good response as long as you keep it geared down. However, it doesn't sound as nice. There's a lot of ticking coming from the valve train. Very loud ticking noise. Not a problem. I mean, a lot of bikes do that, especially V-twins with the older valve designs. Once you gear it down, that goes away. And now I hear the typical brrrr type of V-twin sound, but it's still nothing impressive. It's there. You can hear it. Let's see if we can get a nice first gear run off this light. Nice turning, very smooth. Definitely has more power in the lower RPM range. This is a bike you want to short shift. All right, there is no point, absolutely no point in winding this out to top RPMs in each gear. At the top of first gear there, it was breathless, and then it shifted into second, and you had a nice little kick, and then I could already feel it starting to wind out. I'm guessing, because there's no tachometer, very basic gauges here, I'm guessing it's peaking out somewhere around maybe 4,500 RPM at the most. So again, typical cruiser design, built for low-end torque, not high-end power. Again, not knocking it. That's not what these are for. Now up here at 45 in fifth gear, top gear, it actually starts to go. It's not going to rip your arms off by any stretch of the imagination. It just starts to go. But you can at least use it. You would definitely have to gear down if you were trying to pass somebody. And now that, again, goes into the problem of, well, when you gear down, you're in upper RPMs and you just lost some power. This thing does not have a lot of power, no matter where you put it. Do not think this is, oh my God, a 950cc engine. That's almost a liter bike. No, this is a V-twin 950cc engine. If you're coming from the world of inline engines, you pretty much have to double V-twin numbers to get the equivalence in power. So if this were an 1800cc engine, you would be close to an inline liter bike. This is, man, this is like a big single 500 or maybe an inline 350, somewhere around there. This is the kind of power you're getting. So you just play with the gears here, and when you feel it starting to wind out of power, you give it the next one. You're really going to want to keep it in upper gear for the nice sound and the nice feel, but when you actually have to use the engine, you have no choice but to gear down. And then you get that not so pleasingness coming out of it. So overall, I think they could definitely be improving this guy. You got a lot of competition for the basic entry-level cruiser market, around $8,000 MSRP. And a lot of the other guys have, well, let's face it, more features and more refinement and more power. Not all of them are that much more expensive either. I'd like to do a hard brake test here, but these guys behind me are going to freak out. Because they do feel a little spongy. Oh yeah. Alright, that was a pretty hard brake test. They brake, but there's no urgency. It's got a lot of nosedive. Very spongy. No performance there as far as braking, let me put it that way. Is there a neutral indicator? Am I just passing it? Trying to... Might be one of these where I have to roll a little bit to get it to shift. I think it's in first. I really can't tell because it's not moving the shifter at all, and I don't want to let the clutch out. Well, I guess I'll have to a little bit. All right, I'm in a gear. I think I'm in first because it's not going down at all. I'm trying to find neutral. Oh, that is so bad. All right, number one, neutral is a little hard to find, but that is barely noticeable in the sun here. That is the dimmest green bulb I have ever seen in my life. And the problem is the back of the display is like a dark green, and the light just barely changes the color. But it's hard to find. It does not have a good neutral position. Not what I expect from a modern Yamaha. That's a very, very old feeling transmission as far as that goes. Good design aspects, a lot of matte black on this guy. I love the blue color. I'm a blue fan. Pretty small tank. I don't know what kind of mileage it gets. Some Yamahas give you the information on the gauge, but not this one. Seat comfort, a little hard, a little stiff. Right under my nuts, it's pretty hard. It's a little wide and it's kind of cutting into me. The back end is scalloped, but the seat itself, the padding is just not that great. My butt is already got some pressure points. And this has been a very short ride. What have I been out? 15 minutes, if that? Not a lot of padding. It's got a very hard back to it. It does have a little shelf to kind of hold you in place, but when you actually hit that shelf, it's hard. It's got a lip to it. So not, again, up to par with a lot of other even entry-level cruisers. Definitely test ride a bike before you commit to anything. If your dealer does not offer test rides, if you can't find a demo days or anything like that, man, my suggestion is pass on the bike. Seriously, there have been so many bikes. This is one I was excited to try. And there have been so many bikes where my perception did a complete 180. This is unfortunately one of them. It can go both ways. There are some bikes where I thought I would hate it, and I ended up loving it. And then there's cases like these where, you know, on paper, I saw it when this came out at the show, and I thought it would be awesome. Nope, not so much. I'm not saying don't buy this. This is going to be right for a lot of people, but it's not right for me, being a big guy. The seat alone absolutely kills it. The position isn't quite right. The lack of power isn't quite right, because I've ridden other bikes in similar categories and other bikes that are in this category, so I know the difference. But unless you've ridden them, you might get on this if you've never ridden a cruiser before and just think this is the bee's knees. My point is, have a point of reference, have something to compare it to. That's the only way you can really make a good decision when buying a motorcycle. Other than that, well, nothing much to say about it. It is a very basic bike. So there you go, guys. This has been the 2016 Star Bolt entry-level cruiser, 950 cc's. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.